What's up? Welcome in on this special Monday edition of Lunchtime, live after a crazy weekend in the NFL Divisional round. Wins that came at cost, losses that came at cost, a national championship game that, oh, by the way, is tonight, that thanks to the geniuses that make decisions in college football, a lot of people are probably going, oh yeah, the national championship game's tonight. We've got hoops on all day. We've got hockey on all day. We had a 9 a.m. tip-off in Mack's neck of the woods with Northeastern playing this morning. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and as per usual on a Monday after a weekend of football, we've got more people out of work. So we got plenty of stuff to go over in the next, let's call it an hour-ish here. A little bit of a change up to the format this week on today, obviously, because you're here watching. We appreciate you. Wednesday night in its normal spot, Thursday and Friday lunchtime live, and then we've got a couple of things to discuss about how it pertains around the Super Bowl for us. But plenty of stuff to get into, as always, in the catbird seat. Vegas Mack, fresh off a Patriot win for his other team. We're going to have a conversation with you here in team allotments, but that being said, fresh off the Patriots, the guy who could probably be the definition of a masshole, Vegas Mack. How are you?
I'm doing great. Oh my gosh.
The intros get better and better, and they get longer and longer every week.
I know. I feel like Justin Thomas, like when Tiger gave him all those names and stuff. I appreciate it. I don't know where to begin, but how about not many of my picks hit this weekend. I can tell you that. I felt kind of. But I'm not disappointed. We had some good football. We had some interesting football. We have some interesting calls to maybe talk about. And, what would a football weekend be without a little bit of controversy from the guys in black and white, right?
Yeah, a little bit of controversy. We're going to get into all that. If you're watching along, feel free to comment along. If you're going, what the hell, what day of the week it is? It is Monday.
I have no idea.
It is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. A lot of you, maybe half and half. Some people at work, some people not. We've got a lot to talk about. And, oh, by the way, there's a national championship game. Again, I still don't understand why the hell that we play college football on Saturdays all year long and we play our national championship game on a Monday. And if you think it's bad that the national championship game is today, I've got news for you. Next week, next year, it's a whole week later because we needed to do that. For some reason. Now we're hearing talk of expanding the college football playoff to 24 teams, which is completely asinine. And Mack, a guy we've talked about on this program quite a few times, a guy who would absolutely get our full support for commissioner of college football if there ever was such a thing. Josh Pate, I heard him on ESPN this morning. Fantastic thing he said, and I think this puts it in the exact proper context. Expanding the playoff is not what we need to fix in college football right now. We need to fix our calendar in college football. We need to fix when the portal opens and when it closes in college football. Obviously, as we watch tonight, you've got two teams with two great quarterback stories in Carson Beck and Fernando Mendoza. These are also two teams that have already reloaded for next year when it comes to quarterbacks because their coaches had to take time from what they were doing, preparing for a national championship game to do this. 24 teams is the last damn thing I want to hear. I am okay with expanding it to 16. I really am. And I think what we saw this year was perfect proof that it should have been. And this would have been perfect for 16. I think if we get to 24, Mac, what we're dealing with in college football here is a complete dilution of the regular season. And if we go to 24, the regular season really won't matter anymore.
Yeah, we keep, in essence, taking the underbelly of college football away. I mean, we've taken away the glory. I mean, what was the last week of college football with all the rivalries? We've basically stripped that down to nothing.
Bastardized.
Yeah, I mean, and then, with 24, what that would do is, even though we haven't had them for all that long, we've had them for a while. We would take away the the conference championships. Basically, we'd have to take those away. So like little by little, we're just kind of taking away parts. Well, I don't know what would happen to bowl games if that becomes the case. We're probably again stripping away bowl games as well. So you wanted more. People wanted more. They're going to get more, but at what cost is it going to be? Um, I don't like the direction we're going with all of this.
No, definitely not. And again, I think a jump from 12 teams to double the size of the field is an egregious grab by, I don't know, let's call it the SEC and the Big Ten, because that's where that's coming from. Do we need to expand the tournament? Yes, I think we do. I think 16 is the number. Do we need to deal with other things first before we worry about, like, it's that, and Pate used this term today, and I think he nailed it like he usually does. But he goes, that's drive-by management, expanding this thing to 24. That's not, that didn't even begin to fix. If anything, it does more damage to what's already damaged in college football.
Does the SEC want two more teams in so they can have them lose as well? Oh,
It's a good possibility. I mean, if you're going to take the low-hanging fruit on this Monday, let us know what you think if you're
yeah.
out there watching on this lazy Monday after a great weekend of football. Should we expand to 24? Does it need to go to 16? I know if TJ was here, he would say it needs to go back to 4, but that's not an option that we're talking about here in this current shape and form of college football. So let us know. What do you think? Do we need to go to 16? Do we need to go to 24? Make your picks for tonight. What do you think? We'll get into a couple last-minute news and notes about that. Let's go around some of the other headlines right now. And I'm wondering, and I know TJ will have some thoughts on this in his NHL check-in this week, but we saw a move yesterday that was, we thought it was coming for a while, and the stare down may be on its way to Vegas. We know 1,000% that Rasmus Anderson is on its way to Vegas. And speaking of the devil, TJ checking in.
What up,
What's up, TJ, on this fine Monday? He's got nothing better to do. That's why he's watching the program right now. But Rasmus Anderson, long rumored to be on his way out of Calgary. Now he is on his way out of Calgary. He was sent yesterday to the Vegas Golden Knights for Zach Whitecloud, a 2027 conditional first, a 2028 conditional second. Abram Wiebe also in the deal, a prospect for the Vegas Knights. Not that you know that the Vegas Knights have any prospects, because I think I pulled a you in our group message yesterday and sent this to T, not to you. And I know he's going to have some thoughts, so I'm not going to jump the cart. But Vegas has never developed their own draft pick. If you look at what control of their first-round draft picks that they have 2 in between now and I think it's like 2032. So not a surprise that Vegas moves on. They get a guy in Anderson who can help right away. My biggest question is I want to know if the stare down's coming to T-Mobile Arena, one of the best goal celebrations in all of hockey right now. What do you think? Rasmus finally gets his wish, Mac.
Yeah, I mean, although it doesn't address, I think, the bigger concern for Vegas, and that's their goaltending. I mean, it does a little bit. I mean, it gives them obviously help on the blue line. So I mean, there's that. But I still think the guy between the pipes, whoever it's going to be for Vegas, is a little bit of a weak spot for the Golden Knights. But this has been the MO of the Golden Knights since day one. That's how they put their team together through the expansion market and got a bunch of players and went right to the finals that year. And then it seems just like every year it's some sort of big trade or some sort of big signing. It's no one says it, but it just reminds me of what the Dodgers do in baseball. It seems like every year Vegas is getting the top free agent and nobody really says too much about it. They just kind of go about their thing. Maybe it's because they haven't had a lot of success in the playoffs over the last couple of years. They haven't gotten back to the finals in a couple of years. Maybe that's why. Do I think this is going to make a difference? Obviously, when you bring in a top defenseman like that, it's going to help. But again, I don't think it's going to help their biggest problem, like I said, in net.
Yeah, that's the absolute question there, and I think you nailed it. I think any of us that are smart enough and have paid attention long enough know that Vegas is probably nowhere near done making moves, and we would assume that goaltender is one of those positions that they'll look, but the lack of assets going forward can complicate a couple of things, but we'll see what happens. Speaking of other things in the NHL and things going on in South Florida tonight, the prodigal son is returning for the Carolina Panthers, conveniently against my fighting San Jose Sharks. This game was actually moved up a little bit because of the national championship game. But Matthew Tkachuk set for his season debut tonight against the Sharks, returning from his surgery, maybe in time to get him ramped up for the Olympics. But the torn adductor and sports hernia that he dealt with for most of last year, had surgery on those over the summer. He returns for the Panthers tonight against the Sharks in a game I will very much be paying attention to this evening. Just because I would have anyways, that just adds to it.
It's going to be interesting, with the Olympics coming up. And we saw with the Four Nations last year, there were a couple of big injuries in there. And so, whenever you lend out your players, whether it be for the Olympics like this, or we'll see it this year with the World Baseball Classic, teams always have to cross their fingers and say, gosh, I hope you have a lot of success, but please just come back healthy. This might be actually a blessing in disguise for Florida because, Tkachuk missed, basically the first half of the season, and he's going to get to play a handful of games in the Olympics to kind of ramp him up just a little bit. So, good timing for him, good timing for the Panthers. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, how he comes back. Does he score a goal in his first game back? Ooh.
I may or may not have more information on that a little bit later in the program here. About 10 minutes from now, we'll get into the fallout from Divisional Weekend, especially in the city of Buffalo, as Sean McDermott is out. We'll get into that in a few more minutes. Speaking of the Sharks playing the Panthers in Tkachuk's return tonight, they made a move today, acquiring forward Kiefer Sherwood from the Canucks for 2 second-round picks in the next couple of drafts, as well as AHL defenseman Cole Clayton. Sherwood in the second season of a 2-year, $3 million contract. So this gives the Sharks another guy like Ryan Reeves, a guy who's got an edge, a little bit of toughness. And for a Sharks team that's holding on to that second wild card spot right now, and we've talked about the Olympic break that's looming here in the NHL, Mack, and the one thing that I've said about the Sharks situation is I think the Sharks are one of those teams that the Olympic break probably does a little more damage to because they're on such a good run right now. But Mike Greer literally running in a master class right now in how to take a franchise that was in all kinds of financial turmoil with bad contracts and get them back on the upswing here. I think this is a great move for San Jose.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. They make a move for, a defensive, for a guy who is who's hurt right now. I mean, and that's part of it. I mean, it's still going to be a couple weeks before he plays. And so it definitely seems like the Sharks are kind of peeked through the window and said, oh, look at that. We might be able to sneak into the playoffs this year. Wouldn't that be great for our nice little young team that we have to get a little bit of Stanley Cup playoff experience? I think it's great that they can do that. And you're right. When there you go. When GMs do the right things, it's fun to watch. And I always point to, I think one of the best GMs around is in Boston. No, Red Sox, sit down. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics. I mean, he just seems to know and has that vibe about him. And you're starting to see the same thing here with San Jose. Again, just every kind of little move. And yeah, maybe not yet, T. Maybe not yet, but maybe a couple of years from now. But again, it's not always the big splashy free agent signing. It's these kind of moves that you see that they do, that they improve the team, and that's what Greer's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's fun to be able to watch hockey and enjoy it again as a Sharks fan. Would I like to see them make the playoffs? I don't think it really hurts anything in their development. All it is a bonus for those guys, especially the kids, to get their ears wet. Because, I mean, if you were to look at it right now, San Jose would have the tall task of dealing with Colorado in the first round of the playoffs. So I think everything pointed in the right direction there. And again, you can't put it. It's ironic because we're looking at an NFL cycle here where about a third of the league looking for coaches, some of those jobs filled, but more of them still open. Mike Greer's brother was the general manager of the Dolphins, and we talk about a team in just complete turmoil in roster buildup, and here's the opposite side of it. So see, when you have competent ownership and management in a linear structure. It's amazing what you can actually do with things. I'm talking to about 26 other baseball teams right now. Speaking of baseball, George Mateo and the Braves agreed to a 1-year deal today. This comes on the heels of Ha-Seong Kim injuring a torn tendon in his right middle finger that requires surgery. He's going to be out for 4 to 5 months, so Mateo signs a 1-year, $1 million contract with the Braves. The Rangers add bullpen depth with Jacob Junis on a 1-year deal. Still dealing with the fallout of the Kyle Tucker situation. It's always funny when a guy gets moved. You hear all these things about him after he leaves somewhere, and anonymous staffer, clubby, whoever you want to call him in Chicago, had some not so nice things to say about Kyle Tucker, who is now a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Quote, the guy would check his phone more than he would ever check a scouting report. And you mentioned it, and we took a little bit of flack for this, and I don't understand why, because I think you nailed it right on the head. Kyle Tucker is a very quiet, kind of unassuming superstar, if you will, in baseball. He didn't want to be the guy, and in Chicago, he was kind of looked at to be the guy there. Towards the end of his time, obviously in Houston, the same thing here. Here, he blends in with the Dodgers, where he probably won't even have a top 6 jersey on his own team. But it's always interesting to see that stuff that comes out the next couple of days after. Still a lot of people crying and whining that the Dodgers have an unfair advantage because of the fallout of the McCourt TV deal, this, that, and the other thing. And people going, well, it's a lazy argument if you say that ownership can all spend like the Dodgers because they can't. That's where you're wrong. If you're a multi-millionaire, you can spend. You can spend great money. You just make a choice not to. Now, can the Dodgers do some things because of this deal that other teams cannot? Yeah, they can. But let's also remember the Dodgers were sold not yesterday. It was a while ago. And this has been set up for a while here, and the Dodgers are doing everything that's within their right. Does it lead to a work stoppage? Yes. Do we need a salary cap and a floor? Yes. Is the reason we're going to get a work stoppage because the players don't want to give up the revenue with the salary cap? You're absolutely right. But the Dodgers are doing what's within the rules, and your team can spend more money, whether you want to admit it or not. They can.
I got a couple of good comps for Kyle Tucker. I was trying to think of who he reminds me of. Guys who are really good, but just kind of in that back. And kind of going back a little bit. Sean Green, J.D. Drew, and T, this one's for you, Garrett Anderson. I think guys that are really good players.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, I think guys that are really good players, but they just kind of need that secondary role. Like I don't think any one of them ever wanted to be the guy, but they're great on your team. They do. That's how I see Kyle Tucker. And again, it's not a knock. I wasn't knocking him. I'm just saying he doesn't, to me, not a needle pusher to me.
No, and I think you're absolutely dead on with that. As we get a little bit closer here to spring training ramping up and everything, there's still big names out there, and we'll see where all of that takes us going forward. Now, if you were asleep or under a rock or not a fan of the Buffalo Bills, you may or may not have heard the news that came down this morning. 98-50. Sean McDermott's record as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, which he is no longer the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. He was fired this morning after another season that failed to lead in a Super Bowl appearance. The team did promote Brandon Beane to president of football operations. Team owner Terry Pegula said Sean has done an admirable job. If you looked at the written press release this morning, he did an admirable job, not admirable, of leading our football team for the past 9 seasons, but I feel we are in need of a new structure within our leadership to give this organization the best opportunity to take our team to the next level. We owe that to our players and to Bills Mafia. The Bills obviously coming off of that 33-30 loss in overtime to the Broncos, a game that they had several opportunities to win. An 8-8 mark in the postseason, 2 AFC championship losses to the Chiefs, 5 consecutive AFC East titles from 2020 to 2024, 12-5 behind the Patriots this season. I saw this morning, and I think this puts it, like, nails it perfectly, because we've seen a couple of Bills players already come out today and speak about how much they think this move sucks and how ridiculous it is and how much they don't support it. But I don't think at the same time any of us find this coming in as a shock. What is shocking is the fact that Brandon Beane, the guy who employed Brandon Cooks late in the season to be the number 2 wide receiver for this team. He didn't get canned today. He got promoted today. Now, on the flip side of this, to be fair, and Peter Schrager brought this up this morning, most general managers get a chance, at least one chance, to hire a head coach. Brandon Beane has not done that yet, and that's important to remember in this situation because McDermott was there pre-Brandon Beane. But I think there is a deadlock target on Brandon Beane right now because this roster has some fundamental flaws. TJ's brought this up several times. You got Josh Allen going into his, as he likes to say, his age 30 season here, and a team that cannot get over the hump. So I think this move comes not as a shock, even though it's not very well supported, at least early here by the Bills players so far today.
And those kind of moves are usually not. I mean, you saw the same thing in Pittsburgh. There was a lot of guys in Pittsburgh that came out and said they didn't support, the Tomlin firing. And when the guys are there for a long time, I mean, there's nobody likes change, especially at that level, especially when, there's got to be a lot of guys in Buffalo going to figure out, am I going to be here next year as well? And who wouldn't want to be? I mean, you still have Josh Allen. And again, we said it over and over and over again. I think if they would have put him on defense, they probably would have won that game. There's that. But I mean, we've said it before. There are certain coaches that can get you to the bottom of the mountain and may even get you halfway up into the top of the mountain, but can't get you to the peak and put the flag up on the very, very top. And that just may be what Sean McDermott is. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is he didn't get him that championship. And, unfortunately, somebody could swoop in literally next year. And with that roster, with that quarterback, with that team, and get a quarterback to push them. I mean, not quarterback, a coach to push them over the top and into the Super Bowl and maybe win. And unfortunately, Sean McDermott will be forgotten because he won't be the guy that got him there. But he's the one who did all the work. There are a lot of examples of just coaches that just are good enough to get you there, but not good enough to get you to the top.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. And now we have to deal with the question, or the Bills and the Bills Mafia have to deal with the question is, who are you going to get to replace him? Well, I think that's where it gets really interesting here. There's 3 different things here in play. And number one, the obvious, Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for the Bills, who I'm sure there's a lot of people, and I've seen this a little bit, but there's a lot of people questioning some of the game plan kind of situations. But the Bills offense, for the most part, under Joe Brady, really did well. The other guy that everybody's attaching to this job, and I think makes a lot of sense, would be Brian Daboll, a guy that Josh Allen is very comfortable with. There's another part of this, and this, again, goes credit to Peter Schrager this morning. There's a guy whose name is rising up the quick list right now as far as coaches goes, and he just happens to be Josh Allen's best friend, and that is passing game coordinator of the Denver Broncos, Davis Webb, whose name is being attached to not only the opening in Buffalo as of this morning, but to the opening in Las Vegas with the Raiders as well. I'm interested to see how this thing goes because we get into this debate all the time. Should you give the keys to a franchise to an athlete who's 30 years old, which would be Josh Allen in this example? Well, I think if you're Buffalo, you absolutely do. You're moving into a new stadium. You've got to maximize this window in Josh's prime. I think we saw both teams on Saturday that lost, San Francisco and Buffalo, who are going to, if they do it right, they should be dominating the wide receiver market when it comes to draft and free agency because both teams need massive help at the wide receiver position. But I'm interested to see how this plays out. And if I'm Buffalo, I 1,000% have Josh Allen involved in every step of this process.
Oh, I think you have to. I mean, he is the Buffalo Bills right now, and he's got to have a say. I like Davis Webb. I think Brian Daboll's name is going to be mentioned a lot in there as well. I think that would be a good spot for them. But I mean, they have some, like you said, they have holes on the offense. They definitely have to figure out their defense as well, because their defense was an issue for them for a good part of the year, especially their run defense. We said it 100 times. That was a big hole for them. So is this team close? Yeah, I mean, obviously you made the playoffs. You're not all that far away, and you've got Josh Allen. But I still think there's, again, this is an interesting hire. This is a critical hire. I think on a lot of these teams, this is a team a lot closer than some of the other teams that have openings. But it could be a window that's shutting a lot quicker than some of these other teams.
Yeah, and we get to a situation now where, and we mentioned this going into the Week 18 matchup between Pittsburgh and Baltimore, is we knew the coaches were going to start to be let go on Monday, as per usual, Black Monday after the NFL season ends. And we mentioned the possibility that Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and Baltimore could all be open no matter who won in Week 18 and how far they advanced. The John Harbaugh thing almost blew up in the Giants' face this weekend, and now he has officially signed his deal. But I wonder how much John Harbaugh would have been interested in the Buffalo job and getting a chance to work with another generational quarterback like Josh Allen. Now we won't know, but it almost fell apart on the Giants this weekend, and the contract is now signed with John Harbaugh. This thing took a very interesting turn, and a lot of it, from what we're hearing, had to do with the structure. And in Baltimore, Harbaugh reported directly to Steve Bisciotti, and that was what he was looking for from the reports that we're reading in New York. Well, Joe Schoen is still there, the general manager. Speaking of general managers that should be on thin ice and probably are, same situation as in what I think should be in Buffalo, in New York here. It's all hammered out now. We don't know exactly how it went and what conversation was had, but interesting that was almost fumbled here. They do get their guy. I wonder how much John Harbaugh would have been interested in that Buffalo job had he waited a couple more days, Mac.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good situation. I mean, man, yeah, I think he's going to be very happy with where he is, though. I do. I think this is a Giants team that is on the younger side. I think he can have more of his fingerprints on this than he probably would have with the Buffalo gig. I mean, yeah, I think if you're looking for maybe, like I just said, a chance to win now, this is probably maybe a little bit better way to go. But I think Harbaugh's going to be very, very happy when all is said and done with the Giants.
Yeah, and there's a fantastic article out today by Ian O'Connor on The Athletic that really goes into everything that happened in this pursuit and the snag and finishing the deal with Harbaugh. And that was the big thing, is that he needed it in writing, that he would report right to John Mara and not to Joe Schoen, and that's what he got. But
right.
It was kind of interesting to see how that whole thing went down. We've been talking about the Bills, so let's get into the obvious here. And the play that everybody's talking about from the weekend. Catch or no catch? Well, depending on who you're talking to, it was ruled exactly correctly, and that's the problem here. And two different things happened. Number one, I think we ran into a situation where the NFL delayed the start of the Niners-Seahawks game, which they definitely didn't need to. If you watched that game, they could have just let it go. I mean, all you had to do was show the highlight of the opening kick. The game was over at that point. But the play doesn't get reviewed. It kind of gets poo-pooed, shoot off. Then, ironically, because, the script writers have a sense of humor, we see basically a similar play happen 2 times on Sunday, because that made Bills fans feel even better about the situation. Everybody's talked about it, and I think we can sit here until we're blue in the face arguing with everybody on this one. And everybody's got their interpretation of what happened and what didn't happen, and are showing similar plays from other cuts earlier this season. What was your thought in seeing it? Since none of us actually know what a catch is in the NFL anymore, what was your thoughts and how did you see it in real time?
When I first saw it, I thought it was a catch. I can see where they're going. The whole, I've seen it on 100 videos today. The receiver's got to, complete the catch. But my thing is this is where it kind of gets kind of weird for me. What about when and I know it's a different because of the circumstance, but it drives me crazy. You'll see guys like who are going into the end zone, and as soon as they you know, past the end zone, like they'll throw the ball up in the air, because they've crossed the imaginary line, if you will. That is the end zone. See, it's just things like that kind of when I kind of put it all together, it's kind of like I get it, but like if the ball just barely touches the ground just because we're near the end zone, then you don't even need to possess it. You just need to have it for that second, and it's a touchdown. But something like this, where it definitely seemed like he caught it, he definitely was being touched, and then again didn't complete the process. I mean, what does that mean? Because again, we see it all the time. We see guys catch it, take one or two steps, but you always hear, well, the ball, it was a slight bobble. All these things. It's as clear as mud, Mike. It really is. And put it this way, I heard in both games after this game, both color commentators made reference to this play and said, "Oh, you can imagine what they're saying in Buffalo now." So if it's that big a deal that they're kind of in essence mocking it on the telecast, then it's not real clear. Let's just be honest. And the guys that they have kind of explaining it don't help as much either, because 9 times out of 10 they're usually wrong as well. Like, how many times have you heard whoever they have in there as the referee explaining it, he explains it, and then they come back and it's the exact opposite. So they don't even know. Here's what I'd like to see, and we've seen it a couple of times with ESPN. Man, oh man, ESPN kind of doing something right. But I think it was the ACC where they actually went into the call center and played the video, and like you could hear them talking about it. Why does it have to be such a we can't tell? I mean, we've got enough technology now that it should be standard in every NFL game that we hear that. Same with baseball, same with college football. Why does he need? Okay, we don't need this. Okay, just show it. Just show it. Let us listen to what's being discussed. And we're beyond that. We're beyond it. Just let's go. Let's figure this out.
Bet your ass we're gonna clip that.
Sorry, but
don't be sorry. You make the job so easy for the people that do all our edits when you do stuff like that.
But I'm just saying, when those couple of weekends when I was watching I think it was the ACC, and you got to hear them go through the process. Whether you agree with the process or disagree with the process, at least you hear the process. It's kind of like, it's just like which team should be in the playoffs or not. Like, why can't we be in on those conversations? Wouldn't that be fun? I mean, wouldn't it be fun if we could be in on those conversations and just kind of hear why they think these are the 12 teams or the 16 teams or the 48 teams that are going to be in? Just, a little bit of insight would be nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Mike Sando on The Athletic had an article in his Pick Six that comes out on Mondays, where he talks specifically about this. I'm going to take this right from there. It was 1975. An owner,
remember that,
Ralph Wilson Jr. of the Bills, declared that an NFL official should be fired and never allowed to work another game after making a, quote, rotten call that cost us a chance for the Super Bowl. Terry Pagula, the Bills owner since 2014, did not go full Ralph after his team landed, as Sando said, on the wrong end of the official Saturday, but a lot of people wish he did. And I think it was not so much that we don't understand the rule of what a catch is and what a catch isn't. And that's why I said, like, we could sit here and argue this till we're blue in the face, because some people are going to say they know here, and some people are going to say they know here. And the reality of the situation that we all need to face right now is nobody actually understands what a catch in the NFL is. Sean McDermott was very interesting in the way he handled it. And obviously that, well, it's still going to probably result in a fine. But I think the way that they handled not reviewing it and just kind of blew it off. And then they have Walt Anderson come on the day after to discuss the call. And I think that's the other part of the transparency thing that you were talking about, is people are like, why are we waiting till the day after to have this guy on? Why do we have all these rules analysts that agree with the calls and stuff like that? But then, like, when we really want to get the full breakdown and get into it, we wait till the day after so the guy doesn't have to react in real time like everybody else. I think that's part of the problem.
Well, well, and here's the thing, that like in the last couple minutes, they have like all reviews are done by the booth. What are those guys doing in between for the first four quarters? I mean, they're not doing a whole lot then, right? Why can't we just have it like where they're reviewing the game? They've got enough people that can do it. Review the game, and if there's a questionable call, just radio down to the referee and say, "Hey, we're going to review this one." And really, if they're already looking at it, it doesn't take that long. It can be done. We have the technology to do that. We're not asking them to do something we don't have. I mean, there's so many cameras and so much at these games. That's not a question anymore. Just have somebody there, assign, like they do with baseball. They have somebody up there, assign somebody to say, "Listen, we're going to review this call." Just let them know, and just know that, listen, we got to do it quickly. We can't have these 2-minute breaks. Just look at it. They've already been looking at it. They're already looking. Here's what blows my mind. You know who they need to get? They need to get some of those coaches that are on the NBA or MLB or hockey ones that watch the game, that have the iPad. You always see them like when they're asking about it. Those guys are good. Like, they don't have much time. A lot of them have like 30 seconds, and they've got to go back and they've got to look and see if that play was offsides. Was that those? Get some of those guys to get in there, and they can figure it out within 30 seconds whether or not it was a good play or not, or it needs to be reviewed. We're missing the boat here, and these are just too big of plays not to for that play not to be reviewed. Unexcusable. That's a huge mistake. No matter what, it's that changed seasons.
Yeah, and later in Sando's article, an anonymous executive from an NFC team said the call was right, but the officials gave the appearance that it was nonchalant when it was clear they had not reviewed it. The NFL said Bergman got it right in 1975, the call that we were talking about earlier. Referee Carl Chaffers' crew got it right on Saturday, so what was wrong? He goes on to say, once the game headed to overtime, the league pushed back the kickoff for the Seattle-San Francisco game by 20 minutes. Some executives within the league thought the officials hurried through the rest of the Buffalo-Denver game to beat the new deadline. Whatever the case, however you want to interpret that, the same executive said McDermott has a great beef there. They should explain it. The other thing that's a problem, and you guys have heard me talk about the NBA's 2-minute report all the time. Well, right. Because of that whole incident in 1975, the NFL began making referees available to a single pool reporter to explain controversial rulings upon request. In a famous early instance, Vito Stellino of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette got exclusive access to referee Jim Tunney after side judge Don Orr ruled the Oilers receiver Mike Renfro out of bounds against Pittsburgh in the 79 AFC title game, which I know you remember that one. Not even an old joke. I know you remember it. Chaffers was in the pool report Saturday night in the spotlight, even though he wasn't the one that made the call. So if we're going to do this exercise of after the fact, sometimes we're even admitting we're wrong, why is the guy who made the call not the one who's answering the questions? That's the other part of the transparency problem that I think needs to be fixed. If we're going to have a reporter assigned to tell the world based on that official's viewpoint of what he saw, then give me the guy that actually made the call.
100%. And like I said, what I've been hearing this a lot more lately. Like you'll hear they're saying the referees are doing a better job of, even though they might be or they don't know, they let the play kind of go through, and then they can come back and talk about it. I think our technology is to the point where we can do that. There's no reason why we couldn't have looked at that play and just said, hey, listen, we got to make sure we got it right. That's all. And I think, again, if it was right, obviously the Bill fans are going to still probably think that it wasn't, but at least if you looked at it and said, listen, this is what I saw, this is what happened, we got it right, boom, it makes it a little bit easier to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as what went down on the field, I mean, obviously the aftermath of that today is the fact that Sean McDermott's out. Josh Allen had a horrible game, 4 turnovers. The Athletic did a list today of Hall of Fame hopeful quarterbacks in the playoffs with at least 4 turnovers. On this list, Josh Allen, Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger again, and Eli Manning. This according to Pro Football Reference. The only one of those guys who had 4 turnovers in a playoff game and their team went on to win was Russell Wilson in the conference championship game in 2014 against Green Bay. 4 interceptions. Seattle won that game 28-22. So I know there's people thinking this today, and it's wrong to think this, because if you look at why McDermott was let go, it was not getting this team to a Super Bowl with multiple opportunities and, for my money, the best quarterback in the NFL. There's a lot of people looking at this going, well, if Josh doesn't turn the ball over 4 times on Saturday, then McDermott's not out of a job. I don't know if you can definitively say that. Did it help anything? No. And the fact that the Bills still had a chance to win that game, and we talk about the catch or no catch, I think the call I was more up in arms with as a Bills backer as far as betting went was the missed pass interference call in the end zone, which I believe, if I remember correctly, the receiver on that play was also Brandon Cooks. You saw the replay, clearly being grabbed, his arm being pulled down. Buffalo, despite all of that, still had a chance to win the game. I think a couple of things that went down in that game also kind of probably didn't help McDermott's situation. The attempt to get a field goal before half when Allen ends up scrambling, he ends up fumbling the ball. Denver ends up getting points before the half. That's a decision there, and I get you have Josh Allen, and I get you're trying to steal some points because you're getting the ball back and everything, but those are the things that end up costing you jobs, especially when we're at this point in the season and every moment is so magnetized. Buffalo takes a knee there, and this game probably has a different outcome because that 3-point field goal ended up being the difference. So those are the things when you look at it, and just some of the game planning decisions there. It's not because Josh Allen had 4 turnovers and that's why McDermott got fired. That's not it, even though people are thinking that way as of this morning.
Yeah, I mean, when that swing happened, I wrote down in my notebook, like, please don't be the reason that this game you lose, and that's what I put. And I mean, and it was and it wasn't. I mean, there's, like you said, there's so many of other plays, but that just seemed like at the time, like, just about as unforced error as they was. I mean, it's just Josh Allen being Josh Allen. I mean, you're going to take his good and you're going to take his bad, and he's got way more good than he does bad.
Yep.
And you know they were moving the ball. I mean, that's the thing. They had done a pretty decent job the last couple of times. So, I mean, like I said, I don't fault them for that. But you're right. I mean, you were still in a situation where, I mean, hindsight, like they always say, it's one of those things. Again, I'm not going to ever take Josh Allen and say, don't do this, don't do that. I'm going to let him go, and I'm going to win, I'm going to lose because of Josh Allen. And I believe me, there's no way McDermott's going to look back at that and say, that's why we lost the game. They had plenty of other opportunities, like you said, in that. I mean, multiple other turnovers and just plays that they didn't make. That's just one unfortunate play in that whole thing.
Yeah, and we talked about it. Buffalo had to get James Cook going. He had 24 carries for 117 yards and some big gashing plays throughout that game. They did everything they needed to do, and despite the turnovers, they were there. On the flip side of it now for the Broncos, they advanced to host the AFC Championship game, but that came at a cost. And unbeknownst to all of us, in the middle of Seattle beating the living crap out of San Francisco, I just happen to be thumbing through Twitter because I've got nothing better to do and see, wait, Sean Payton came back and said what? Bo Nix on the second or third to last play of the game, we've seen conflicting reports, broke his ankle and ended up finishing the final couple of plays. You saw the kneel down and the positioning for the field goal there. He's done for the year, and kind of ironic from Porter Johnson on X today, this picture came up. Taken back at Auburn in 2018 when Jarrett Stidham was Auburn's starting quarterback. Nix was still a recruit. He is now starting for Nix for a shot at a Super Bowl in Denver against his former team, the Patriots. Big blow. Real shitty blow. We found out today there was another shitty blow on Saturday we'll get to here in just a second. What do you assess the Broncos' situation now without Bo Nix and Jared Stidham under center? That's hard to say.
It
Stidham under
is.
center.
Yeah. I, well, you know, even when they won, before I knew about this, I was more impressed with the Broncos. I mean, they showed me a lot. I mean, I can see why they have the record that they did. They're just they just don't let you get. It's like glue. They don't let you get away. Their defense is good enough to keep you close. Their offense is just there enough to get you over the edge. And I think you even said it's like they're going to be down 17-3 and find a way to win 20-17. That's just how the Broncos are. I just, gosh, I don't know how you win this game if you're the Broncos. I mean, it's obviously you got to have a heroic defensive effort to stop a really good Patriots team, but you basically have a quarterback that has not played this year. I mean, Sean Payton's going to say and do all the right things, but boy, oh boy, if the Patriots don't unleash some sort of hell on him, I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting development here. We saw the line open at 4.5. It went up to 5.5. It's back down to 4.5 right now in favor of the Patriots on the road to advance to the Super Bowl. And, it sucks. It is what it is at this point in the season. I think it's obviously a dynamic that's massively in play here. And I didn't get a chance to verify this. And you mentioned, Stidham basically hasn't taken a snap in well over a year. We go back to Stidham's time when he was with the Patriots, and I believe it was his last touchdown pass as a Patriot quarterback. His last touchdown pass, period, was when he was with the Patriots, and it was to Demaryius Thomas, when Demaryius Thomas, formerly of the Broncos, was with the Patriots. Kind of an ironic twist between those two teams here, and we keep another streak alive in the AFC of whether it's the Patriots, whether it's the Broncos, whether it's the Chiefs, one of them being in the AFC Championship game. So
Crazy.
The other game Saturday, which was not much of a game, and as you can see scrolling across the bottom, Seattle beat the living Shaheed out of the 49ers. A TKO on the opening kickoff, which, I mean, you would have never thought it at the time, but it was the game winner from Rashid Shaheed, and that place went freaking bananas, as you would expect it to. Rough day for Brock Purdy, 15-27, 140 yards, one interception. Guys not going to the football. I mean, San Francisco had no freaking prayer in this game from the second they walked out to put foot to ball there. People are going to point to Sam Darnold, and he didn't have great numbers again, and I understand all that. Here's the thing, and if you watched that game, and you actually watched it, and I suffered through all of it, Sam made some really big throws at all the right times. And if you've got that out of Sam Darnold with this defense playing the way they are, I mean, I'm telling you, everybody laughed at me last year, lauding Mike McDonald. He was rebuilding the Legion of Boom. I mean, what more do you need to see at this point is now the Seahawks will host the NFC Championship game against the Rams, and they are 2.5-point favorites. An absolute ass kicking by the Seahawks on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, it just came down to, the few things that we talked about. I mean, more injuries for San Francisco. It just continued to pile on, as the game, losing McCaffrey, and which is, devastating to them. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know if it mattered if everybody was there and healthy, if it would have made a difference the way, I mean, it honestly felt like Seattle was in a different universe. I mean, it's all that it was. They looked like they were playing on a pro level, like a number 5, and San Francisco was just at a pro level number 2. And it just did not matter what they did. It reminded me of what we saw like a week ago when Indiana beat Oregon. Again, Oregon, a great team. San Francisco, a great team. But boy, oh boy, they just did it at a different level from all. I mean, I'm just watching the game. It just seemed like every play, like Brock Purdy was running around for his life. I mean, it was just Seattle's a good team. Let's just put it that way. They are.
Yeah, and somebody dropped this stat out, and I don't. I'll find it here in a second, but the amount of yards that Brock Purdy ran
Yeah, it was like
during the
hundreds of
game,
yards.
yeah, it was absolutely friggin' ridiculous how much he ran. So Seattle sits now 1 win away from their fourth Super Bowl appearance, their first time in 11 years. Kenny Walker, another fantastic game against the 49ers for Walker, 3 touchdowns, tying him with Sean Alexander for the most in a playoff game in franchise history. That Seattle defense that likes to be referred to as the dark side all over the field yet again. And they now go forward against the Rams, and we'll get into the matchup obviously over the course of the week here, but they're going to do it without Zach Charbonnet, who we found out today needs ACL surgery, and he is done for the season. So a big blow to the Seahawks running game. Charles Cross, and this is another one I think really, really, really needs to be kept an eye on this week. Charles Cross left that game in the third quarter with a foot injury. He did not come back. Now, granted, at that point, the game was long over. This game, Seattle should be well rested. I mean, other than losing Charbonnet and Cross, because it only took 13 seconds to knock out the 49ers. The loss of Charbonnet, obviously huge. The loss of Cross against that pass rush of the Rams, also huge. And an interesting one, before we really dive into the matchups, as I mentioned later this week here, the 2 games between the Rams and the Seahawks this year, obviously we remember the most recent one with the goofy finish and everything else. 58-57 was the score in the 2 games. Total yards 830 to 829. Now they're going to meet again with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line. That's from Field Yates of ESPN. The Rams, we'll get to them here in just a second, but a big loss, much not, of the quarterback ilk like Denver, but Zach Charbonnet and Kenny Walker, quite the 1-2 punch, and now it's going to be K9 going forward for the Seahawks.
I mean, yeah, at this point of the season, when you lose somebody that's such a big part of that offense, he does so much for them. I think that's a big loss, and now it's one more thing that, a little bit more pressure put on Donald, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens in this one. Yeah, these are. I mean, I don't know that anybody predicted that these would be the 4 teams that we have, but these are 4 pretty good teams that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go to Foxborough on Sunday. Feel free to comment along if you're watching along. You can follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. Now, betting nuggets are our favorite thing to toss out. We did a little bit better this weekend on our player props. Still have tonight to go to figure out how the flipping the coin thing worked for us. Not as well as it has. But if I could have given you the betting nugget ahead of time, and if I would have seen this, I would have called it, because as we now know, the 4 finalists in the NFL, it's Mike versus Sean in both matchups. If you would have just said, hey, it's going to be Mike versus Sean in both matchups, you could have scored this weekend. Or you could have just picked all the favorites, because all the favorites won, including New England, on Sunday morning in Foxborough in a butt-ugly game again for New England from an offensive standpoint, but it doesn't matter again from a defensive standpoint. They were fantastic. But a turnover palooza by both teams at Foxborough, 28-16, and the Patriots, after long suffering, just so many years of being down, would they ever get back up again? And here they are in the AFC Championship game. What an ugly game, but that's what a Patriot team coached by Mike Vrabel can very easily win, and they did it again.
I said it. For the Patriots, they're young, they're still learning, and this is just another step for them. They'll have a bigger step this week now, having to go and win on the road. But they're I can't go much further than say that Texans team. I'm not going to quite put them in the category of frauds, but I kind of texted out to you guys, like, I figured out the problem of the offense of Houston. All year they've kind of had a problem. CJ Stroud did not look good. And there was conversation at halftime about whether or not he should even come back out as quarterback for Houston. And I was like, I don't know if if I'm a Texans fan, I mean, I don't know how he couldn't come back out in the second half, but what I saw from him last week and the week before, there's something going on there. Like, I if they would have won that game, it would have been a travesty. It would have been like, there's no way you can have 13 turnovers in 2 weeks and be playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. It can't happen.
Calling the Texans frauds from the guy who is a fan of a team that has more consecutive playoff losses than Houston has playoff wins. You're going to call the Texans a fraud?
I didn't call them a fraud. I said
they're borderline getting a fraud alert from you.
They're getting a fraud alert.
I think no, you're on it though, and we talked about C.J. Stroud, and I think part of it is he's probably still seeing freaking ghosts. The poor guy from last year getting his ass kicked all over the place. But yeah, the happy feet. I mean, they were even worse on Sunday morning, yesterday morning, than they were against the Steelers last week.
Yeah, and I mean, like going forward now, this has got to be a concern. You know, we talk about, you know, TJ and his list about guys that, you know, kind of get you there, but can never win. He's starting to get that reputation just a little bit, I think.
He can get out of the first round. He can't get out of the second round. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The Patriots thing is I don't know. I don't get. Sorry, I literally just had a walk in here. Somebody rang our doorbell, which never happens either. I don't get this part of it yet. I've intently watched the Patriots now for quite some time because I didn't believe in them for most of the year. And I wanted to see them play the Buffalo game and the Baltimore game before I'd make an assessment. What is scary about this Patriots team is Drake May isn't playing MVP football right now in the playoffs so far. And they're easily winning. If Drake May gets it rolling going into Denver and then on to the Super Bowl, that's terrifying if you're anybody in the AFC because, I mean, at no point did I think Houston was in the game. They were sticking around, but I never had the sense that New England wasn't going to pull it off. And that's what's terrifying and hard to diagnose about this Patriots team is Drake May isn't playing great right now.
You know, it's one of those things like, you know, it's not like we haven't seen this before with the Patriots. And I mean, Tom Brady had missteps in playoffs as well. There was a lot of times where Tom Brady didn't play well. There's a couple of those Super Bowls that, you know, he gets all the glory for winning, but it was the Patriots defense that got them there in won games as well. And so, you know, I think it's kind of that same situation. I think it's their defense is carrying them through. They have enough offensive pieces to still take some pressure off of May. Again, remember, this is just his second playoff game. And so I said it a couple weeks ago that this Patriots team is only getting better as the year goes. And stop giving me the Patriots have had the easy road. I get it. Their schedule wasn't the greatest, but they still won those games. They've kind of lucked out a little bit in the playoffs, but that's not the Patriots' fault. They're winning the games that are put in front of them, and that's all that can be said. And so can we move on from that narrative, please?
I have no idea what the hell is happening in my house right now. This is dedication right here. My focus is locked in. Yeah, we talk about it all the time on the show. I mean, and it's hilarious because this morning when I woke up, like the first thing I saw on our X feed is next year's strength of schedule. Mm-hmm. It's like why do we go down that rabbit hole every year? Like, listen, I'll give you a perfect example. If you're unsure of strength of schedule and what it actually means, which is nothing, it's like a quarterback rating. The stupidest damn stat in the history of the world. And Mack gave us a very proving point to that I'll share here in a second. But like, you have to play the teams that are on your schedule, and you can sit here and say they've played nobody, but at this point in the season, anybody that's here is a good football team. San Francisco is a perfect example of this. They finished third this year in a very tough NFC West. Guess what next year? Their schedule doesn't look great when you look at it on paper because they're playing third-place teams in other divisions, and it's an easier schedule. Good for the 49ers. But you still have to play the teams that are on your damn schedule, and it's funny because when we talk about it, and you reference this because you even said the other day, T's still hanging his hat on the week 1 Patriots Raiders game, which is the reason why this game is being played in Denver this weekend and not in New England. So you can sit here and say, well, they haven't played anybody. You got to play who's on your damn schedule. And if you can watch this Patriots team and not think they're good, I got it. I understood your point of that for most of the year. But if you're watching them now and don't think they're good, I'm not really sure what you're watching, and they're only going to get better.
And Mike, if that was the case, you have all these teams. I'll just randomly pick. I'll say Tennessee. How many years in a row has Tennessee had one of the easiest schedules?
Mm-hmm.
How come Tennessee's not in the playoffs? How come Tennessee's not? Do you know
the
what I'm saying?
Arizona Cardinals. They always play a last place schedule.
Right. So I mean, it's not that's not always the case. It's like, we know why San Francisco last year they had a lot of injuries. They kind of and their division was good, and they just kind of fell into that spot. Like somebody has to be in that spot. But if it was that easy, then hell, I mean, that's what you would do. If that was the key. Tank a year, get a last place schedule, and the next year you'll be in the Super Bowl. It's not that easy.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. And it's interesting that we get to this crop here before we get to the Rams and the Bears, because we talked about, obviously, the Sean McDermott news. If you're missing it, he is out in Buffalo. Brandon Beane promoted in Buffalo, and they'll be looking for a new head coach. 36 coaches have won the Super Bowl. Out of the 32 that were hired after the start of the Super Bowl era, here's a breakdown of what year on the job they won their first title. First year, 4 coaches. Second year, 8. Third year, 4. Fourth year, 7.
It's the double cheeseburger.
Are you hungry?
Apparently so. I was just checking on the Hurricanes game.
Fifth year, 5 coaches. 6th, 7th, 8th, 14th, 1. So that's the breakdown of all the coaches hired in the Super Bowl era. Of the 7 remaining coaches without a Super Bowl title with their current team, here's the year that they're in. Ben Johnson just finished his first year. Mike Vrabel still going in his first year. Mike McDonald up in Seattle in his second year. DeMeco Ryans just finished his third year. Sean Payton still going in his third year. Supplementary stat for you in a second on Sean Payton. Kyle Shanahan and Sean McDermott, who is no longer with Buffalo, in their 9th year. So history would tell us that maybe the Sean McDermott, Kyle Shanahan thing becomes a thing in a couple of years. I've got some more thoughts on that. Mike Vrabel knows how to get a team through this point. I said I had supplementary stat as far as Sean Payton goes. This one I think is also very telling, and I saw this one this weekend, and it really puts it into the proper perspective at, to support your argument of, hey, the Patriots, this is where this rabbit hole started, are a good team. Stop saying they haven't played anybody. Has your coach won a Super Bowl title with another team? The only guy that can do that this year is Sean Payton. Mm-hmm. So, Giants fans, I hate to break this to you, but no coach has ever done it before, won a second Super Bowl with a different team. I'm really interested to see this game on Sunday. I'm interested to see if we get a great performance out of Drake May, because here would be my concern after watching that game on Sunday morning. We know without a doubt Denver's defense will show up to play. I was literally getting ready to text a friend of mine on Saturday during the Bills game, Bills fan. They're doing a really good job on Nick Bonito. As I'm getting ready to type it, oh shit, here comes Nick Bonito. Now we've changed this game. Denver's defense is going to play. And I think, and I wonder, if Denver's defense shows up to play like we're expecting them and Drake May plays like he has the last 2 weeks, if that's how Denver wins this game, because I think it absolutely is. You have to think that with Jared Stidham in there. I don't think Drake May can play like this again against Denver's defense.
No, I mean, like I said, I think my biggest concern in this game, if I'm a Denver fan, is are they going to, I mean, they already don't produce a lot of offense as it is with Bo Nix. What are they going to do now with this backup quarterback? I mean, I know he's been there. I mean, he knows the system, But it's like I said. I know we had a few snaps here and there, especially in the last couple of games. But you're now basically, this is like playing one game of spring training, and then the next game you play is Game 7 of the World Series. Like and nothing in between. And like it. They have their offense has to be limited. You can't tell me that you can take your whole playbook and give it to a guy who hasn't physically not that he can't understand it, just physically hasn't done it against a really good team. With Knicks, do I think Denver had a chance? I do. I don't know that they have a chance without him.
Yeah, and I think that's a very fair assessment. Again, we'll get more into the matchups as the week goes along here. Our final one, obviously, James Richard Garoppolo is headed to his 7th conference championship game. No, nothing's wrong with Matt Stafford. Other than the way the offense looked, nothing's wrong with Matt Stafford. But the Rams, they outlast Iceman in the ice and get a 20-17 victory, and we all were robbed of the moment in that game that we all wanted to see, the handshake between these two. What are you doing, NBC? You had one job. All of us wanted to see the handshake. If you missed it last week, Sean McVay being great friends with Matt LaFleur, who is back now with the Packers, back for more with the Packers. And the handshake between LaFleur and Ben Johnson, who really don't like each other, and Sean McVay, very coy in Sean McVay's way, said he basically had his guys back. And NBC doesn't show us the damn thing because why? Like, how did we miss that memo? Like, everybody wanted to see that handshake. I felt like I was cheated.
Well, we've got cheated about quite a few things this weekend. Let's just kind of put it that way. But what we didn't get cheated on,
oh, Jesus, here he goes.
oh no, was that Game Boy EA Sports Caleb Williams touchdown. Can we just talk about, I've seen my son do that play 100 times against me playing Madden football.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
Very glad you brought that up.
I mean, he does this all the time. He'll run his quarterback back 40 yards so you can't even see the damn screen, and then throw a pass and catch it, and then he laughs at me all the time because I couldn't defend it. That's all I could think of on that play. I'm like, what is he doing? He knows they're going the other way, right? And then just for him to be as open as he was, that was, I honestly couldn't, I thought that was it. The Bears are going to the Super Bowl.
So the reason I'm glad you brought that up. On Lunchtime Live last week, TJ and I were talking about this game, and I said the thing that would concern me playing Caleb Williams is he puts so much pressure on the discipline of your defense, because when the play breaks down, he turns it into something you saw in the schoolyard in the dirt. Mm-hmm. And then it happened. And this, even crazier, on the touchdown pass to Cole Kmet, who I almost played for a touchdown and decided to go with Olamide Zaccheaus. Hated that move. Had a pretty good Sunday. But in NFL playoff history, 4 teams have had a game-tying touchdown, including extra point, in the last 30 seconds of the fourth quarter. All 4 of them lost that subsequent game in overtime. 1987, Craig DeLargent for Seattle. 2004, San Diego, Breeze to Gates. 2015, Rodgers to Janis in the divisional, and then 2025, Caleb Williams to Cole Kmet. An incredible play, very apropos for the Bears' entire season, and that place was rocking. Mm-hmm. If you're a Bears fan, every reason to be absolutely friggin' stoked. I know a lot of you not happy with DJ Moore. Looked like maybe he was dogging it on that route. I get it. But if I was going to point a finger at why you're in this position, I literally wrote these down as I was watching the game because they stood out like a sore thumb. The missed opportunities for the Bear. Mm-hmm. For the Bears. For the Bear. You don't get the S because you lost. 4th and 2, interception. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, fail to get the yard, turnover on downs. 1st and goal from the Rams, 5, turnover on downs. Ball at the Rams, 48 in overtime, the costly interception. The Bears had every opportunity to take this game at any point that they wanted it. And somehow, Sean McVay is like effing cockroach in the playoffs. Like every time you think Sean McVay's team is on the ropes and they're about to get pushed off the cliff, Sean, like the look on his face, I know you saw this when they zoomed in on him when Caleb pulled the schoolyard play to tie the game, and he just had that, you got to be shitting me, like he was mad look on his face, and I'm like, somehow this is not going to end up my way, and it didn't. 20-17, and the Rams move on, and their offense was ugly. Was that game plan from the Rams not really, really weird to you? That they didn't try and get Corum and Kyron running all over the Bears defense, or was that just me?
Yeah, I mean, because they had possessions where they were getting good yardage against them, but I mean, I don't know, maybe they just figured. Well, I mean, that's one of the things I said about one of these teams is going to run their game to a victory, and I guess that they were thinking, well, I guess we're not gonna. They're going to try to stop our run. We're just going to keep trying to throw the ball back all over the place. It was just kind of weird. I want to go back one other thing. One of you said, all those possessions that the Bears had, God, coaches, kick the field goals. I know I get on the Steelers about kicking field goals, but there's a difference in this. When you're, when you can't penetrate the 30-yard line and you're having to kick a field goal, that gets a little bit frustrating. But like when you're on the 1 and 2, those are what you've got to get the points. Like your season's done. Kick 2 field goals, one field goal, and you move on. Analytics is just driving me crazy sometimes.
Rich Eisen had a tweet yesterday, was fantastic, and he goes, I don't get the fascination or why so many coaches are allergic to points, and it is what it is. And on the flip side of that, you can sit here and go, the Bears got here the way they got here. And I think there was also, to me, this game was massively predictable in every element of it, that it was going to be kind of sluggish, kind of like a rock fight in the first half.
Yeah.
Caleb was going to do something out of his ass and tie the game. Proctologist TJ has named Caleb Williams by now. That was in our group message this weekend. And then,
is that going to go on the back of the shirt?
We might have to. We might have to do that since he has to do it 6 times. But it was like the whole thing was so damn predictable. And knowing Sean McVay as unfortunately as well as I do now at this point, everything happened in this game exactly how I thought it was going to. So I get the Bears being the way they are, but I was also a little bit surprised that Ben Johnson didn't think about, or didn't look like he thought about going for 2 on the Caleb Williams play. And I think a bunch of us, if he did it and he missed it, he's an idiot today. But I also think a lot of us would have not been surprised if he did go for 2. And I can't say I would have hated it.
I mean, I remember you tweeting that out or sending it to us. I just think because I think because of how crazy that play was, I don't even know that it probably was even discussed. I think if they were kind of driving and they were closer, they might have had those discussions. But I think it was one of those that it was such a, again, like you said, pulled it out of his ass kind of play that they probably never even discussed it. I mean, boy, yeah. But I mean, you're right though. That would have been the Chicago Bears thing to do. But I don't know that I could have pulled the trigger on that.
No, I don't think I would have either. And I'm like, from my coaching days, I'm Mr. Offensive Maverick all the time. It wouldn't have surprised me. So, now we sit here, NFC Championship game, round 3, Rams-Seahawks, 2 great games earlier this year. The Seahawks coming off of scoring 40 points, rushing for 150 yards, no turnovers, allowed no touchdowns, had fewer than 10 penalty yards, scored a special teams touchdown. No other team in the history of the NFL has done that in any game, regular season or playoffs. Another interesting stat with these two, and I gave you the numbers of their total yards and points against each other earlier. The Rams' number 1 scoring offense, the Seahawks' number 1 scoring defense. It'll mark the first meeting of the number 1 offense and number 1 defense in a conference title game since the 2014 NFC Championship, when the Seahawks' number one defense defeated the 2014 MVP Aaron Rodgers and the Packers' number one offense. Another interesting thing, in the 2 games of the season, Seattle has not sacked Matthew Stafford one time. Can Seattle get the pressure, make Matt Stafford uncomfortable, get him moving around outside of the pocket will be the interesting thing. Couple other just rando numbers and things from this weekend before we get up on out of here. Again, no show tomorrow. We'll be back on Wednesday night and then lunchtime live Thursday and Friday as well. Not only did the Bills lose in overtime on Saturday, the Sabres lost in overtime on Saturday, and the University of Buffalo lost in overtime on Saturday. So probably a bad night to be a Labatt's and a bucket of chicken wings in Denver or in Buffalo after losing to Denver. The other interesting thing that I noticed here, and we talked about it a little bit, Mac, in people in blaming the way the Bills played on Saturday for why McDermott got fired. Almost said McVay. See, he's that much in my damn head. It's like a cockroach. Here's why. Here's the another supporting reason if you're confused as to why today, which you shouldn't be. Since 2020, the Bills have scored the most points in the NFL, allowed the fewest points in the NFL, have the best record in the NFL, have a points differential of 902. No other team is over 600. And they don't even have a Super Bowl appearance to go with it. If you're still confused as to why Sean McDermott is not the coach any longer, that's why. Do I think Sean McDermott will be out of work long? Hell no. Do I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh are very happy today that a guy like Sean McDermott is suddenly available for them? Hell yes, I do. Do I think they're going to go that way? Well, the late Jim Irsay asked Don Rooney why the Steelers always hire young coaches. Rooney said, Jim, they don't have as much stuff to unlearn. They're not encumbered by these things that they've learned and gotten comfortable with. They're able to go be more free in the direction they want to go. So as we see, and we've got some pretty significant job openings in the NFL, and you want your team to do X, Y, and Z, that's one way to look at it. And I think the Rams are probably looking at missing some guys whenever this run ends for them. I think Shula is as good as gone. I think Nate Shieldhouse, especially with the things that have come out recently about him, is probably as good as gone. And that's just not going to stop right there. I am fascinated to see both of these games on Sunday.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, and when we look at it, I mean, these have been your 4 best teams all year. I mean, I think one of the things we said about this season is we don't know who certain teams are.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could say we have a pretty good idea who these teams are. We know what we're going to get with Denver. We know from a defensive standpoint. We know what we're going to get, from Seattle. I was thinking about this just off for a second. We look at the national championship game tonight. We look at all these games this weekend. What's the one thing through all these college football playoff games and all these NFL games that have been, I think, the strong point to all of them? It's not offense.
Nope.
It's defense. Look at this, guys. Guys, we're all so enamored with the offensive part of football. But guess what? It's the defense. The defense is winning games. That's why Miami's playing tonight. That's why Indiana's playing tonight. For the most part, that's why all 4 of those teams that are going to be playing next weekend are in there. It's not because of their offense. It's because of what they do on the defense. Defense wins championships. Just saying.
I've heard that somewhere before.
I'm going to put it on a shirt.
It also helps you overcome poor quarterback play. Matthew Stafford is the only quarterback since the 1970 merger to throw 40 passes in a game or more, complete under 50% of his throws, throw for no touchdowns in a road start, and yet still win a game, regular or postseason. Quarterbacks had been a combined 0-99-1 in road starts since the merger when doing that. I think you nailed it. I mean, I think that's exactly what it is we know who all 4 of these teams are. Now, I will ask you this, and maybe this is the secret to the success of the Rams, and doesn't surprise me that a Sean McVay coach team did this, but have you ever put cayenne pepper in your socks to keep warm in the cold?
Not done that. Done lots of things, but have not done that.
We might have to test that experiment because Melissa Stark, hell of a report, and literally had the visual aid to go with it. One of the Rams players I saw on Twitter after the game pulled his sock off and like showed you what it looked like. It looked like the Kurt Schilling bloody friggin' sock. And I went, you know what? I'm sure Vegas Mack and all the time he's spent in cold weather climates has probably put cayenne pepper in his sock before to stay warm because that sounds like a Vegas Mack thing.
No, I mean, I know people what they're trying to do is keep your feet from sweating. That's what they're trying to do, and there's various different ways to do that because if your feet sweat and it's cold, your feet get cold. So they're trying to keep their feet warm is what they're trying to do. Unfortunately, we seem to have, even though we had snow last week, the weather has changed. So I won't be able to, for the sake of the show, I would have done it. I would have gone with different kinds of peppers. I've tried, I mean, and try to do it, but I don't know that it's going to be cold enough, but I'll see what I can do. If it gets cold,
man.
you know what? Hey, you know what? Here's the thing. Why don't you come up here in a couple weeks and I'll leave you peppers galore and you can try it.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
You know, those of you that are new to this show, this is why you want to watch this show because we are average Joe bettors. We have a proctologist on this show. We now have a podiatrist and pepper enthusiast on this show. And I need to find somebody else for this show for the rest of this week or just change one of your guys' names to Sean because we'll just lean into the Sean versus Mike theme all week. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about on Wednesday's show. Wednesday night, 5:30 on the West Coast, 8:30 on the East Coast. Thursday and Friday, lunchtime live. Same bat time, same bat channel on both of those. We've got some stuff going on today. There's sports on right now, a national championship game tonight. I am also adding to my play tonight. We've seen the number drop down to 7.5 today. A lot of people talking about the first quarter and betting it under 10.5. That number for the first quarter has fallen down to 8.5. And I was going to ask you, what do you think of betting the first quarter total over 8.5? Final thoughts here before we get out on how you think the national championship game is going to go. We've all made our picks. We're all on the Indiana to cover the number. We're all on the over here. But what do you think about the 8.5 in the first quarter? Because I think what we see here is Indiana kind of throw a haymaker early. And I think Miami kind of answers very quickly after that. And I think we get that, okay, we've both punched each other in the face here. Let's play some football. I think that's how I see it going. And now that the number's at 8.5, I think I'm going to play it over 8.5 as well because it kind of does line up with playing the game total over. How do you think this one starts?
Like I said, I thought this is going to be a heavyweight bout. I don't think any team's going to want to make a mistake early on, like we saw in the first one. I think they're going to be a little conservative, and both teams I think are going to try to get their running game going. I think we're looking at like a 7-3. 3-3. I think that's about where we'd be at the end of the first quarter.
It'll be a fun one from Miami. Lots of Indiana people all over the city, interested to see the crowd layout, interested to see the game. And just remember, next year we have to wait a week longer to see the national championship game. Again, we'll be back on Wednesday night, all three of us. T with me on Lunchtime Live on Thursday, and then you're stuck with just me again on Friday. You'll deal with it. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. Until Wednesday night, enjoy the national title game for T, for Mack, and Mike. We'll talk to you Wednesday.